Is it scary being an FBI agent?
What is up, guys? It was opening weekend for Longlegs, and I, of course, rushed to see the film on opening weekend. And there's so much to unpack on this visual construction known as Longlegs. So, we're going to be diving into a review of the movie. We're going to be looking at the visuals, the sound design, the acting, the directing, the editing, the script and story, as well as the entertainment factor of the film in general. Now, this is going to be a spoiler free review. So you are safe to watch this and then go see the movie after. Choose not to see the movie based on how the review sits with you. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications. Your subscriptions really help me and really help this account. So thank you so much to all those who have done that. So let's now dive into the review itself. And we start with a synopsis of the film. Now, Longlegs follows FBI Agent Lee Harker, and this is played by Maika Monroe. And I apologize if I got that name pronounced miscorrectly. She's assigned to investigate a series of unsolved serial killer murders, which take place over the course of several decades, that seems to have a connection to her past. Now, as she starts to unravel this personal connection she has to the lead suspect, who calls himself Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage, she tries to not only solve the mysteries surrounding these cases, but also tries to prevent the next murder she anticipates will happen. So let's start with the positives. And right off the bat, the visuals of this film. This is probably my favorite part of Longlegs was the cinematography. Director Oz Perkins masterfully constructed this atmosphere, which is filled with tension and discomfort, all by the use of how he's moving the camera, how he's composing shots, how he's framing certain things, how he is constructing the visuals that we are seeing in this film. Now, this includes a variety of motion tracking shots. He uses a lot of wide angle shots with shallow focus very close into subjects, which creates a distorted perception of the overall frame. And also, I found this so fascinating, and I really want to unpack this more. Throughout the entirety of the movie, there is this repetition of shots that were crafted with perfect symmetry. So this could be positioning building rooftops in a certain way so that they are perfectly symmetrical, how it's tracking a car down the road with perfect symmetry of trees on the car on either side, positioning a subject in the middle of the frame with two identically sized windows on either side of them, or two identically sized pictures on a wall hung behind them. Symmetry is used a lot in this movie, so much so that it does start to create this additional sense of unease and discomfort in the visuals. This attention to detail is in just about every single scene of the film, which makes all the scenes of the movie actually really brilliantly executed from a visual standpoint. And the sound design was effective as well, although in my opinion, I do feel they used sound and how they chose certain elements of sound. I feel they used it better in the trailers and in the promos than actually is used in the theater or in the final cut of the film. I was surprised that certain audio cuts were used out of place or juxtaposed in the trailer. I know that's done to heighten interest and intrigue into the movie, but it just made it feel out of place when you actually hear it and where it actually is positioned in the movie. The acting in the film was pretty solid, but outside of the main protagonist and antagonist, so Maika Monroe's character and Nicolas Cage's character, there was really not much development to any of the other characters. That being said, Maika Monroe showed a lot of depth in her role as Lee Harker. Now, you might recall her from the movie It Follows. And although I really liked her character in It Follows, I don't think that character had a lot of range. But we're starting to see a lot more depth and range and ability of this actress to really play a more nuanced role, which I thought was really great. And when it comes to Nicolas Cage's Longlegs, I just gotta say, Nicolas Cage steals absolutely robs every scene that he is in. Such a creepy, uneasy, unnatural, discomforting performance from Nicolas Cage. So another really strong point in this movie. Now, when it comes to directing and editing, there are so many positive things that can be said about the construction of this film. But one of the things that I struggled with most was the pacing. The first act of the movie, I think, progresses flawlessly. It builds excitement, anticipation. It introduces the key players, sets the scene and the narrative for what we can expect. And by the time we hit Act Two, which, by the way, every act in the movie is actually inserted with a title card. And they call it, I think they called it Story One or Chapter One, Chapter Two, Story Two, Chapter Three, Story Three. I can't remember what they called it. And then there was a subtitle or chapter title for each of those three acts. Act One, brilliantly executed. And then Act Two hits. Now, some might say Act Two really takes its time to lay out the climax of the movie, or building towards that climax. Um, some might say it takes too much time, and that someone would be me. I would say it takes too much time. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love a slow burn movie that builds anticipation, that slowly raises the stakes, scene after scene after scene. And I respect a director who's willing and has the confidence to take his time to get us, the audience, to that result, to that climax. Um, but that's only when Act Three delivers. And in this one, Act Three feels like a really rough change in gears. My first critique about Act Three was a lot of the explanation or reveal is done through flashback scenes in Act Three. To me, that feels like cheap exposition, and I think there could have been a more effective and a more entertaining way to bring the audience into the final reveal, other than just a jump back scene that really just explains everything for the audience without leaving um, too much left to question. But then also, I wouldn't say it jumps genres from Act Two to Act Three, but it certainly skips enough that it's hard for the audience to carry their willing suspension of disbelief that they maintain in Act One and Act Two into Act Three. Act Three almost feels like it's a little bit different of a movie with a little bit different of a narrative. That, don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't appreciate the direction they were taking in Act Three, but I don't feel they did enough, especially in Act Two, to prepare the audience for that transition. Now, that being said, I think the movie overall was a lot of fun to watch. I would say really fun to watch. I found it highly engaging, extremely entertaining. I was really enthralled throughout most of this film. And that is a testament to the visuals. That's a testament to the acting and the directing in this movie. So let's put it to a scorecard. Let's look at the visuals. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. The sound, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Acting, I'm going to do a 7 out of 10. And the only reason for the decline is just I would have liked to see more nuance in some of the secondary or supportive characters in the film. Directing gets an 8. Editing gets a 7. Story and script get a 7. Entertainment value gets a solid 8. That gives us a total of 54 points out of 70. It's a 77%. Hey, that's a C plus in my book. I would recommend this movie. I was actually surprised that we didn't crack 80% on this, because I would say that this is a very entertaining movie to watch. I did enjoy watching it. I would like to watch it again, because there are so many pieces of this movie that I'd want to see again and try to unpack, especially the cinematography, and try to really get a sense of why the director was using the camera or the framing in the ways that he chose to do, which I thought were so entertaining and so effective. And it'd just be fun to unpack that a little bit more. So there it is. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about this movie. If you had a chance to see it, or if you're excited to see it, let me know in the comments section below. Let me know what you thought. As always, thank you so much for tuning into this. If there are other movies you'd like me to review, drop them in the comments section. I'd love to check out some new films and review them for all of you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you all in the next film. Take care, everyone.